Hello everyone, this is Saman Salim at SS Medics and today we will be talking about AMC clinical exam. And in this video we will cover the basic exam format, the exam materials that you require, the preparation materials, what you should know before you sit for the exam, and also the two types of exams that are being conducted these days. One is face-to-face and the other one that has been newly introduced, that is the online system. So we will discuss the differences in both of these exam patterns. So let's start. So the exam format is very straightforward. There are in total 20 stations. 4 stations are rest stations. Remaining 16 amongst the remaining 16 stations, 14 are marked, whereas 2 are unmarked or pilot stations. But during your exam, you will not know which of the 2 stations are unmarked or pilot stations. For every station, you will have 2 minutes reading time and 8 minutes of performance time. So total 10 minutes per station. Now, the division is as such that 3 to 4 stations, they will be from medicine, 3 to 4 stations from surgery, 2 to 3 stations from pediatrics, 2 to 3 from gynecology and obstetrics, and 2 to 3 stations from psychiatry. So this is a general division between the subjects. But in total, 4 to 5 stations, they come from physical examination, and they can be from anywhere, like maybe one station from medicine, one from surgery, one from pediatrics, one from psychiatry, one from gynae-obs, but it's totally their choice how they give you the physical examination. Maybe 5 of the 5 stations might come from medicine or surgery, so it's totally their choice. Then comes the types of the OSCE stations. So basically, there are 4 main different types of OSCE stations. Number 1 types of the stations are in which they are assessing your clinical communication. And these will be about the counseling cases, these can be patient education cases, and these can be the ethical and legal dilemmas. I have written here section 1 and 5, so it denotes a section 1 and section 5 of AMC clinical handbook. So if you are preparing the OSCE stations about the clinical communication, you should go through from the section 1 and section 5 of the AMC clinical handbook. Now, counseling stations are very simple. For example, there was a case of placenta previa or any bad news, and you have to explain to the patient what is wrong with them and what you are going to do. Second is the patient education. For example, type 1 diabetic patient has come to you before the pregnancy and they are planning for the pregnancy. So you have to educate them. Then there can be ethical and legal dilemmas as well. For example, taking the patient off the ventilator or sterilization of an intellectually disabled minor kid. So these are various ethical and legal dilemmas, and these are all very well explained in AMC clinical handbook. Second types of the OSCE stations are those which determine your clinical diagnosis skills. And in them, the main task will be history taking. Mostly they will give you that you have to take the history for 4 minutes, at least 4 minutes, or maximum 6 minutes. So when you see that they have written in the stem to take the history for 4 minutes or 6 minutes, you know that this is the station of clinical diagnosis, and that is very important right now. Then your choice of investigations, which investigations you choose, or they may give you the results of those investigations and how well you are able to interpret those investigations. That also comes under this heading. And then based on your history or investigation, the remaining will be a general consultation that tell your diagnosis or differentials or what will be your further management plan. This was a second types of the OSCE stations. Now, third type of the OSCE stations are those in which the main task is physical examination. And this is the main station, which is very different in the face-to-face and online exam. We will talk about it later on. Fourth type of the stations are about the clinical management. So in this scenario, they would have most probably mentioned the diagnosis of the patient already. You will be knowing that the patient is a known case of congestive cardiac failure and COPD and a lot of comorbids, and now the patient has presented with worsening of the shortness of breath and wheezing, etc. And how will you manage this patient? So the diagnosis will already be given to you. Or a known case of psoriasis has presented to you, a known case of SLE has presented to you with these complaints. How will you approach and how will you move forwards? A known case of poisoning or intoxication has been brought to the emergency department by his friends. So these are the cases of clinical management. And section 3 and section 4 of the clinical handbook, it deals with this clinical management stations. So these are broadly for different types of the OSCE stations. And these stations, definitely they will be coming from the 5 basic subjects: medicine, surgery, pediatrics, gynecology and obstetrics, and psychiatry. Let's move forward. Now comes the exam marking. So what happens is that for every station, they will have given you 2 to 3 tasks, or maybe 3 to 4 tasks. And for every task, they will be assessing you. And then at the end of the station, the examiner will write his general overview or impression of the candidate. If by any chance you have performed any critical error or you were not able to complete your station, it means that you are clearly failed. If you have not completed a task, it's not that they will assess you on the task that you have done. It's a clear fail if you miss a task. So let's suppose here is an example. For example, if a scenario is given and now the tasks are that you have to take history, you have to explain the choice of investigations, and then you have to explain your initial management plan. So basically what they want is take history, then tell us the investigations which you will do, also tell us why you are doing those investigations, and then tell us your initial management plan. So the assessment areas will be about the history, choice of investigations, rationale of those investigations, the management plan, and then comes the communication skills. And for every assessment area, there is a 4-point marking scale. For every assessment area, for example, history, the examiner will be marking if your history was very satisfactory, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, or very unsatisfactory. Even if you get one very unsatisfactory in any of the assessment areas, it is a clear fail. After doing the assessment areas 4-point marking, then the examiner writes his overall rating of the station, which is basically the general impression of the candidate, how well was his communication skills, how empathic he was, how was his approach. So these things make a lot of difference if the candidate was confident or not. And that will determine the overall pass and fail of that exam station. You need to have at least 10 stations out of 14 to get AMC clinical pass. Now comes the exam preparation. So the materials you required are simply you need AMC clinical handbook, you need Marvin notes, or if there are any other notes that you prefer, you can have your physical examination notes, or you can prepare the physical examination from Tally O'Connor. Then role plays are very important. But here I would like to say that try to avoid role plays amongst the beginners or amongst the students themselves, and try to do role plays with some professionals or with some examiners who have been examining the AMC clinical exam for a while. So even if you get just one chance or one role play chance with those examiners in 1 week, that will add value to your knowledge and about the perception of this exam way more than your colleague or a beginner can help. So the role plays with the examiners or those who have actually examined this AMC clinical exam, that helps. They can give you the actual input, the common mistakes that students do and how they should approach it differently. What are the expectations of an examiner from a candidate from a particular scenario? So they can better guide you about those things. But I have seen that even for the free classes that are arranged, mostly the students are very hesitant to come forward and do any role plays. Then if you have any weak areas, or if you think that for this particular thing your theory is a bit weak, you can go and always consult Joan Murtagh. Then you have to attend some workshops, especially like ECG and mental health workshop, because you need to have a working knowledge of the Australian healthcare system as well. It's not just the clinical knowledge that is necessary to pass this exam. Australian healthcare system knowledge is also very important to understand when you will be doing the urgent specialist referral, when you will be doing a normal specialist referral, when you will be immediately transferring the patient to a hospital, when will you consider air transfer or air ambulance. So these things are also very important. The clinical knowledge, number one. Second is the knowledge about the Australian healthcare system. Number three is your communication skills. Your language, it should be clear. It should be easy to understand. Number four is your confidence. If you're stuttering and you're not very confident, that puts a very negative impact while you are doing your station. And then having a positive mindset that yes, you can go through this exam, because it's a very lengthy exam, 20 stations, even like 4-hour rest stations, but still you have to wait for those for that time as well. So sitting there for 7 to 8 hours and going through this drill is not something easy. And with every station, you will have to continuously change your approach. One station will come from medicine, the next might come from gynae, next might come from pediatrics, and then you will jump onto psychiatry. And then other thing is that the patient that who is sitting in front of you, who is role playing, that might be just a 25-year-old girl. Whereas in the scenario, it will be written that he is a 75-year-old male admitted in the hospital. And now you have to imagine that although I am seeing a 25-year-old girl, but I don't have to take her as a 25-year-old girl. I have to keep in mind that that person sitting in front of me, the person I'm talking to, is a 75-year-old man. And that imagination is really, really important in this exam. Because once you fixate that in your mind, only then you will be able to show the proper empathy and proper questions that need to be asked. So most of the students, they normally ask that what is an ideal timeline or an average timeline. So for the fresh graduates whose gap is like less than 3 years, they should not take more than 3 to 6 months in clearing this exam. It is a doable exam. Even if you're doing it with your job and kids, you should be able to clear this exam within 3 to 6 months. 3 to 6 months are more than enough. If you are studying continuously, if even if you're studying just for 1 hour every day, but if you're consistent, you can clear this exam within 3 to 6 months. But for those who have long gap, they can of course take like 6 to 12 months to clear this exam. But anyone who is going beyond 12 months is like they are not very serious about the exam or not very serious about their career as well. Now, let's talk about the different exam styles. What are the main differences between the online and the face-to-face exam? So the positive thing about the online exam is that you're sitting in the home. So that home environment really really increases your confidence and the anxiety level drops. You have less stress. Whereas in the face-to-face exam, there is professional environment. You are very unfamiliar with that environment. There is more stress. But in the online exam, the technical issues, they are your own headache. If your internet gets disconnected or if you're not able to hear, if the hearing quality is not good, it's all on your own. But in face-to-face exam, the technical issues are the faculty headache. One more thing is that in the online exam, the ID check is done outside the station. So it means that you get complete 2 minutes reading time and complete 8 minutes of the performance time. Whereas in face-to-face examination, ID check was done inside the room. So like 10 to 15 seconds were wasted in that ID check. So now that problem is gone, but at its place, another problem has come that now audio video delay is mostly present and that consumes 10 to 15 seconds. So when you enter into your station, it is best to wait for 5 to 10 seconds unless the video of the role player becomes visible. You have to ask them, can they hear you? And once they're okay, only then start your station. Now, in the online exam, again, sometimes the role player is very indifferent. I remember in one of my stations, that was a DKA station, diabetic ketoacidosis, and the father was very indifferent. He was sitting on his couch eating some chips, and I had no idea how I'm going to show him the empathy, or he was very indifferent. So that also puts you off. And maybe role players do this in the face-to-face exam. I had no idea, so I have left that place blank. Good thing about the online exam is that PFE card is provided at once. Whereas in face-to-face examination, you had to ask the PFE findings from the examiner one by one, which used to take a lot of time. So as the PFE card is given at once, it saves a lot of time. And another query that most of the students were having is that, can you see the scenario throughout the 8 minutes? Yes, you can. The scenario is visible at the site. Even when the PFE card is shown, you can still move the slide up and down. You can see the scenario, you can see the PFE card, and if there is any investigations or ECG down, you can also see that. So that is not a problem that you cannot see the scenario. Then in the online exam, as soon as the 8 minutes are done, there will be no clock or no timer will be given to you. And as soon as your time finishes, you will be abruptly taken out of that station. So that is something that you don't get to pass any closing remark before leaving, which was a good thing about the face-to-face, that even when you're leaving the room, you can pass your closing remark. Also in the face-to-face exam, you were having the examiner with you. And if you had any query in understanding of the station or anything, you could ask the examiner. But in the online exam, you cannot see or ask any question from the examiner. So even if you are having some query about the station, whom you have to talk to, whom you have to address, if you want to ask about the hemodynamic stability, or if you simply want to ask if I have the permission to talk about the son's condition to his father, you cannot ask these questions from the examiner. So that is one negative point about the online exam. Now in the online exam, the counseling stations are also very different. Previously, what they used to do in the face-to-face exam, that if the student has covered like indications or contraindications or advantages and disadvantages of a particular thing, for example, vaccination, and if the candidate has left something out, examiner will throw a question at the candidate, and if the candidate used to know the answer, he will answer it and the examiner will mark him. But now, even if you have missed something, they don't give you a question or any hint that you have missed this this important point. They simply say that if you have anything to tell, you can tell me. So that is one thing that for the counseling stations, you need to keep in your mind, that what are the things that you need to talk about, and you have to think about all the possible points in that 2-minute reading time. Now, physical examination stations, I will try to make a separate video about this because many of the students were very confused. So let's talk about the physical exam stations in a separate video. For now, this is all from my side. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section. Thank you so much.